Hi everyone! In this tutorial I'm going to show you how I figured out how to do sub tumblers finally. So I have 20-ounce tumblers, and I will leave a link below to where I get them. I will leave a link to everything that I use in this tutorial. So I'm going to start off first by cleaning the cup with some alcohol. Don't forget to take off that little sticker on the bottom. I finally figured this out by watching a few tutorials, and I will leave links to each of the tutorials that helped me. So basically I watched a few tutorials and then I took a little bit of each one, and this is how I finally figured it out. So it's awesome to be able to finally figure it out. So I have an Hamilton Beach extra large convection oven. You want to make sure that you have one of these internal gauges because the temperature is not true to what you need. So you need that internal temperature gauge. And I did not notice until right before I was ready to put the cup on that I did not have my oven plugged in. So yeah. Okay, so I print all my stuff out from Word, Microsoft Word. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to Layout, and then click on Margins, and click on Narrow, and then go to Orientation and click on Landscape. Then go to Insert, Pictures, this device, and choose the file that you're going to use. I had one in mind, and for some reason it wasn't showing up here, so I just went with a different one. And it probably wasn't the best one to do the tutorial with, so I do a second one in this tutorial. So once you have your image on the screen, the next thing you want to do is, and I should have done this after, so what you want to do next after you get your image on the screen is you want to go to Size, where it says Size, and you want to click on that little arrow in the corner. Click on that, and then uncheck Lock Aspect Ratio. If you don't uncheck that, then you will not be able to change the size of your image. So now you can type in the size of your image. So the size on the top is your height, and the size underneath that is your width. Then go and check, once you have that in, then go back and check Lock Aspect Ratio and click OK. Now you can go back and check make sure you have it right where you need it to be. And then you go over to Position, click the one in the center, and that will center your image on the screen. So now go to File, click on Print, and then click on, make sure you have the right printer up, and click on Printer Properties. So I have an Epson EcoTank 2720. I am using for this project Printer's Jack paper, and I have Printer's Jack Sublimation ink. So the first thing you want to do after you go to File and then Print Properties, you want to go to your paper type. You want to select Premium Presentation Paper Matte. Once you have that selected, you want to go to More Options. This is where you're going to do most of your changes. So the first thing you want to do is click on Uncheck High Speed, and then check mirror image, and then go to custom and advanced options. Under color management, you want color controls. Under color mode, you want Adobe RGB. Under gamma, you want 2.2. For your brightness, set it to 9. Contrast, set to 7. Saturation, set to 15. Density, set to 4. Once you have all that set, click OK, and then print. There's no need for you to mirror your image manually because you already have it set to automatically mirror the image. When you're doing sublimation, you have to mirror your image. And don't freak out if the colors look differently. As you can see, they look differently than what was on the screen. That's okay. So I'm just showing you here that my printer's jack paper is 8.3 inches wide, and my image is 8.25 wide. That's why it looks like I got my image all the way to the border. You want to make sure that you trim off any of that border, because if not, it will affect your final outcome. So trim off any excess paper that is not part of your design. I have one of those paper cutters, but I just find it so much easier to use my ruler and an X-Acto knife. This design was a little bit hard to tell which side was up. You want to make sure, please double check, because I've seen it happen. Make sure that the top of your design is at the top of your cup. This one was a little hard. I had to go back to the image just for reference. I don't have one of those cool little fancy tape cutters. I need to get one. So for now, I just cut a long strip of tape. I attach it to my desk, and then I cut it into 5 little pieces. And that's what I'm going to start wrapping my cup with. So the trick to these and the key to these is getting your image on there as tightly as you can. The image has to be in contact with your cup at all times. So you need to get it wrapped on there as tightly as you possibly can. So I start with a piece of tape in the middle, and then I tape the bottom and the top. And then I'll add a piece of tape between those. So just try. I mean, it's going to seem impossible, but just try and get it on there as tightly as you can. Now, once I have those on there, I'm going to run a piece of tape down the seam. And I learned a tip from one of the tutorials that I watch. I believe it was Courtney's Customs, where she said to leave a little tail at the bottom of your cup. And that helps you to know when you're turning it in your oven which way you've already turned it, so you don't accidentally put it on the same side twice. So now I'm going to run my finger along that seam, and that will help get a tighter seal there. You don't want any air getting under your paper. So I'm going to press it down with my fingernail. I'm also pressing the seam where the paper underneath, where they overlap, kind of like when you do fabric, where you can feel the bottom and the top seam. I'm pressing those, and that gives you a kind of an idea of how big my overlap is. You don't want a huge overlap. You want a very small overlap. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'm not done with the heat tape yet. So now that I have my seam taped up, now I'm going to tape up around the top and the bottom, and I'm going to follow the direction of the way I wrap the paper, if that makes sense. And as I'm wrapping it around the cup, I'm pulling it as tight as I can. Then once I get it on there, I'm going to run my hand around it just to make sure it's on there, and then fold it over. And as you notice, I did not trim my paper. There was a little bit of, my paper was just a little bit taller than my cup. I did not trim that off. I just folded it over. It will not transfer to the inside of your cup because there's none of that special coating that's needed. So I don't trim the paper, I just fold it over. Once I have the top taped up, now I'm going to do the bottom. And again, I'm following the direction of my wrap of the paper, the way it's wrapped on the cup. And then I'm going to fold that over. Now I'm going to put on some painter's tape. And I'm just going to put it around the top. I'm not going to be folding it over. I'm just lining it up evenly with the top of the cup and pulling it as tight as I can. And then I will do that on the bottom as well. I tried wrapping the whole cup with tape like I've seen some other people do, and it gets to be too smoky for me in my little workshop, and I can't do it. It stinks and it's a real mess. So once I have the top and the bottom, I'm going to put a piece over that seam, and I'm going to make sure that I press it down really, really well. And I'm going to go back over with my fingernail just to make sure that it's all still pressed down and sealed really well. And here you'll be able to see a little bit better how big my overlap is. So it's not very big at all. So once I have that taped up, now I'm going to use shrink wrap. And everybody has different ways of doing this. Some people use shrink wrap, some people don't. Some people use masking tape, some people don't. Every different methods work for different people. This is what works best for me. I think it also has to do with the combination of the printer you're using and the type of ink and the type of paper. I think all of that combined also makes a difference. So everyone has their own way. This is what works best for me. So hopefully you'll be able to take even maybe one small thing from this tutorial and combine it with other things that you've seen, and hopefully that will help. So you just have to keep trying until you get it. It's a learning process. So, but once you get it, it's awesome to finally accomplish it. So when I put on my shrink wrap, I just ran my heat gun over it really quick. I didn't try to get it on there really, really tight. I just wanted to get it shrunk on there, and then the oven will do the rest. So I bake mine at 350 for 6 minutes, and I turn it halfway at 3 minutes. And that little tail, that little tape tail, that helps me to see which way I needed to turn it. Once it comes out of the oven, I put it into a tub of cold water, and I just roll it around there until it's cool enough to the touch. I thought people were doing this just to help it cool off faster, but I did see in one of the Facebook groups a comparison, a side-by-side comparison, where a person unwrapped it while it was still hot and then unwrapped it after putting it in the water. And from their comparison, the one that was cooled in the water actually looked a little bit more vibrant than the one that was unwrapped while it was still warm. So that's the way I'm going to be doing it from now on. It helps you, keeps you from burning your hands, honestly. So, I think this is the hardest part about making these cups is the unwrapping, because it can be a little bit of a sticky mess. But it's like opening a Christmas present when you finally get that paper off. And it's just so rewarding when you finally get it right. It's awesome. So at this point, this cup is done. I mean, you can put a for sale sticker on it and it's ready to go. That's it. You don't epoxy over it. You can add glitter or little embellishments to it, and you can epoxy over them. But right here, right now, it's done. It's ready to go. So I wanted to do one more example of not having to mirror your image. That was a little bit of a bad example because you could put it either way. So here's one right here. And I want to show you that you do not have to manually mirror the image, that it will, if you do the settings correctly, that it will automatically mirror, the program will automatically mirror the image. Before I realized that I could do that, I would forget to mirror my image. So I'm glad that I don't have to think about it anymore, because every single time I would forget. And I wouldn't realize it until I was already printing the image out. So I wasted a lot of ink and a lot of paper not remembering. So I'm just going back here and I'm just making sure that everything's still the way I left it. And then once I double check and make sure, I'm just going to hit print. And there it is. It's mirrored. It's backwards, just like it's supposed to be. So I'm going to do the process and unwrap it. And so as you can see, the colors when you print it out, your blues might look green. Your colors aren't going to look right. It's going to look dull. The colors aren't going to be activated until you put it in that oven and the heat hits them. They are heat activated inks. So it's going to look different on the paper before you put it on your cup. So don't freak out. And if you follow these settings, I can't speak for any other type of printer. As I said, I have an Epson EcoTank 2720, and I know these settings work for a lot of people because they have been going around, they've been making their way around the Facebook groups. That's how I got them. So I know that they are working for a lot of people with that type of printer. Any other printer I cannot speak for, but if you have a 2720, these settings should work for you. So here it is, and the image is the way it's supposed to be on the cup. So, and they're perfect. They're gorgeous. And there's no ghosting around the top of the bottom. The ghosting is where your paper wasn't tightly pressed down on your cup, and it kind of made like a ghostly image of what's supposed to be there. I hope that makes sense. But there's no ghosting around the top and the bottom. Everything is as it should be. So hopefully something in this tutorial will help you. And these are just some of the other cups. Once I finally figured out the technique and the settings, I'm wanting to sublimate everything. It's, at first I didn't even want to try it because I love my epoxy tumblers. And yes, I am a glitter seller, but, and this hurts my soul to say, not everybody likes glitter. So I figured I would give them a try, and I was wanting to give up after the 5th or 6th cup, but once I got those settings and I watched a few tutorials, I got it figured out, and it's so addicting. So have fun with it. Don't give up. Keep trying. Bye, everyone.